Hello and welcome back. With starting off a new series, I figured I would slow it down, and rather than giving you 2 or 3 episodes all at once, I would take my time and deliver the stories for Twilight Zone, one at a time. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that I have a Patreon page where all my videos will be available ad-free. It's also great when it comes to videos that require copyright clearance on YouTube, which normally can take between 7 to 30 days depending on the studios involved. But Patreon has no such clearance requirements, meaning that videos are often available there first. All tiers help me as a creator and unlock this feature, with the lowest tier being only $2 a month. I'll leave a link down in the video description, just in case you're at all interested. But with all that out of the way, let's get to the spooky stories. Our first story is titled Shatterday from Season 1, and is actually the pilot episode of the 80s series, and it originally aired on September 27th, 1985. Our story starts off in a bar, where a young businessman named Peter Novins downs a few drinks to let off some steam as he waits for his girlfriend Jamie, who, based upon the bartender's jokes, is seemingly always late. He asks the bartender to use the phone. He quickly dials, but laughs at himself for being so wrapped up in his own mind that he dialed his own phone number rather than Jamie's. He's about to hang up when somebody answers. Peter has a short conversation with the man on the other end. He repeats his phone number over and over again, convinced that he dialed the wrong number. But the man on the other end continues to confirm that he dialed correctly. Peter introduces himself to the man on the other end of the line, only to have the stranger say the same name back to him. Peter begins to notice the voice sounds exactly the same as his, even using the same mannerisms he uses, and all with the same inflections. But the man on the other end is the one that voices it first, saying that they sound just alike. Peter at the bar asks what he's doing in his apartment, and Peter too argues that it's in fact his apartment. Since the two are the same, they both begin to think it's a prank, a friend at the office doing an impression just to mess with them. It all comes to a head when they say the exact same thing at the exact same time, both in the same voice tone and cadence. Peter 1, wanting to test the waters, asks Peter 2 what his grandfather did for a living, trying to snuff out the trickster. Peter 2 says the name of his or their grandfather and reveals that he was a firefighter. Peter 1 looks around the bar in disbelief and hangs up. He frantically pays his bill and tells the bartender to tell his girlfriend he had an emergency and had to leave. He rushes out of the bar, stumbling into random passersby in a blind panic. He stumbles into a phone booth, cutting off a woman who was trying to do the same. He dials his own number again, mumbling to himself not to answer, and the phone rings. But again, Peter 2 answers. Peter 1 asks in a panic to just give up on the joke. He says that it isn't funny anymore, before asking Peter 2 who he really is. Peter 2 just says his name, Peter Novins. Peter 1 threatens to return to his apartment and throw Peter 2 into the streets. But Peter 2 advises against it, reminding him about the basics of impenetrability. Who said two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time? Peter 1 hangs up the phone in defeat, but ends up calling right back. But the conversation only ends with the two of them posturing to each other. Peter 2 saying that he's not giving up his home, and Peter 1 threatening to take it all back. The two end up trading insults before the conversation ends again. The next day, Peter 1 goes to his bank. He closes out his bank accounts and takes the money in the form of a cashier's check, planning to cut off Peter 2's access to the money. Peter 1 rents a hotel room and spends the day cutting off Peter 2's creature comforts, starting arguments with delivery services like groceries, dry cleaning, milk, and even newspapers, all in an attempt to force Peter 2 to leave his apartment. He calls Peter 2 to gloat about cutting off his access to the outside world, telling him that he'll have to go out and get food the old-fashioned way from now on. Peter 2 coyly jokes that he's already been out, reminding his alternate self about the money hidden stashed in case of emergencies. Peter 1 grunts in frustration. Peter 2 says he thinks he knows how this is happening, blaming it on cosmic forces or astral projection, calling Peter 1 a small piece of himself that wandered off and that he's doing fine without. Peter 1 says that it could have happened when he went to his friend Kenny's lab and jokingly took a picture of his aura. Peter 1 thinks that something happened at the lab and a piece of him split off. Peter 2 cuts off the rambling, revealing that their mother called that morning. Peter 1 asks what she wanted. It's revealed that she knew Peter lied about why he had to leave early the last time he visited. Peter 1 asks what happened. Peter 2 reveals that he did something that Peter 1 would never do. He made arrangements for their mother to come live with him. Peter 1 is upset by this news, asking what he was thinking, calling him crazy. Peter 2 says that might be so, but reminds Peter 1 that he just lost access to his mother, before calling him a creep and hanging up the phone. Peter 1 throws the phone in frustration. The next day, it begins to rain heavily in New York. Peter 2 is comfy in the apartment, but knowingly looks out the window. Peter 1 is standing in the rain. He enters a phone booth and calls Peter 2 yet again. The two talk again, agreeing that living half a life isn't really worth living. They come to an agreement that the one who deserves it most should get to keep their life. They again argue back and forth, subtly dropping insults and shots at each other's character and flaws. But nothing really lands since they are the same person. Every trade is countered by the perfect comeback because they know each other too well. They are each other. Their arguments again come to a predictable stalemate before they hang up. The next day, Peter 1 is sitting in his hotel room sick from spending the night out in the rain. Peter 2 calls and asks how he's feeling. Peter 1 says he feels like crap, but his fever is going down. Peter 2 says that he talked this over with some people he wronged in the past, even talking over his future with Jamie. Then darkly makes the joke that he's going to name his first boy after Peter 1, before hanging up the phone. It starts to dawn on Peter 1 that Peter 2 is beginning to fully take over his life. He falls asleep in despair. The next morning, there's a knock at Peter 1's hotel room door, and Peter 2 walks in. The two finally meet face to face. Peter 2 tells Peter 1 that he looks like hell. Peter 1 jokes that he hasn't been feeling like himself lately. Peter 2 giggles at the joke. For the first time, the two have a civil conversation. Peter 2 says that he finally understands what's been going on. It just came to him last night. He figured out that they are two sides of the same coin. One the selfish man that he used to be, and the other being the man he should have been all along. Peter 1 understands. He says he knows the feeling. There was a small good side in him, like a shadow, but over the last few days, he felt like the good side has been winning, and that he's beginning to feel like a shadow. He regrets not allowing his good side out more often, saying that he doesn't regret much more than that. Peter 2 says he's not a shadow, but he's becoming a memory, a piece of his past that needs to be learned from and moved past, because the life he was leading would have led to nothing but pain and loneliness. The two shake hands, and Peter 1 begins to fade from existence. Peter 2 looks back before exiting the hotel room, seeing nobody left inside. Peter 2 is now the one and only, Peter Novins. He gets in a cab knowing that the good side of his soul won in the end, and that his new life will be better, more heartfelt and less selfish. He rides off into the distance as the screen fades to black. When it comes to Shatterday, the episode was directed by the legendary Wes Craven and was written by Alan Brennert, based on the short story of the same name penned by another legendary author, Harlan Ellison. The original story follows the same premise: a man who accidentally calls his own home and discovers that another version of himself is there to pick up. Interestingly, Ellison actually got the idea for the story from a real-life moment. One night while waiting for a date at a restaurant in New York City, he accidentally dialed his own phone number instead of hers. After realizing the mistake, he wondered what it would be like if someone had actually answered the phone at his home, and that little idea eventually spiraled into a great horror story. The teleplay for the episode was written by Alan Brennert, but the opening scene actually caused some disagreement between Brennert and Ellison. Ellison rejected several versions of the scene before eventually writing the opening dialogue himself, which is the version that ended up being filmed and used in the episode. The episode stars yet another Hollywood legend, Bruce Willis, in the role of Peter Novins. But at that time, Willis was still a relatively unknown actor trying to break into television. This was filmed well before Die Hard made him a household name. Not long after filming this episode, he landed his breakout role in the TV series Moonlighting, which helped launch his career and eventually turned him into one of the biggest movie stars of the late 80s and 90s. Because the episode revolves around Peter talking to another version of himself, filming the scenes required some clever tricks for the time. Many shots had to be filmed twice, with Willis performing the scene once as each version of Peter. In the few moments where both characters appear on screen at the same time, the other Peter was played by a body double while Willis performed the main role. The audio and movements were then superimposed and edited together in post. Willis also got extremely intense while filming some of the emotional scenes. During one hotel room sequence, he began yelling and punching the wall, getting a bit too much into character. Some takes were so intense that he actually lost his voice after several takes, forcing the production to stop filming early for a day or two. Another interesting detail is that Shatterday was filmed on traditional film rather than video, which helped give the episode a more cinematic look compared to some of the other segments in the series. Interestingly enough, Bruce Willis wasn't the first choice for the role. After another actor's schedule fell through, Willis was picked to play the role of Peter, bringing his own bravado and intensity to the performance. And finally, Shatterday was chosen to help launch the 1985 revival of the Twilight Zone. The producers wanted a story that focused on psychological themes rather than monsters or action, and it became the episode that helped set the tone for the writing of the show moving forward. Before we end things, I just want to give a special thank you to our channel members, and a big thank you to everyone who watches. Some of you have mentioned YouTube not featuring my videos and that you missed a few. The best way to ensure that doesn't happen is to click the notification bell to get personal notifications every time I upload a new video. But with all that out of the way, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.